Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of Agiledad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Standup. So without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday, so it's time for our Agile, Not So Agile episode of the Daily Standup, where we are going to discuss a topic that should uplift you, energize you, make your life better, warm your heart, and give you another reason to live another day. I hope you had an incredible week. Today, I want to discuss with you the most difficult question that I was ever asked. Sounds kind of interesting, right? Well, one of the things that I do in my workshops, if you've ever attended one of my workshops, one of the things I like to do in the beginning stages of the workshop, right when we first start, is we play a little game, and it's called Ask Anything. And for those of you who know, I have a psychology background, so this is a fun game because I have 3 rules. Rule number 1, you can ask me anything, no matter what it is, about life, about work, about Agile, about anything. And the truth is, I'm going to answer. But you have to understand that when I answer, I have no filter. None, nada, zilch. My filter has gone away a long time ago. So if you ask, I'm going to answer. That leads me to rule number 2. Let's keep it something at least relatively safe or relatively relevant. I don't want to get crazy questions out there. I mean, I've had so many questions from people about how to stop fighting between the Palestinians and the Israelites, or can you do a Myers-Briggs assessment on a former president, and questions that I'm happy to answer, but they just take a lot of time, and they're probably not appropriate for class, right? So I try to keep things PG-13, yes? And then rule number 3 is make it something I can answer in 30 seconds or less. So that way I can give as many people as I can an opportunity to have their question answered. And I often get questions about Agile, and I often get questions about the Walt Disney Company, and I often get questions about, I get lots of really good questions, right? Really good questions. But I remember in one of my very early Scrum classes, I remember this like it was yesterday. I had a young lady in a class, and she raised her hand, and I said, yeah. And she says, it's kind of a personal question, so I don't know if I should ask. I said, go ahead. She says, I've been in a relationship with a gentleman for about 2 years now. I said, okay, it's a while. She says, how do I get him to ask me? And I stopped for a minute, and I knew what she was talking about, right? She wanted him to propose. And my immediate thought was, well, why hasn't he asked you yet? If he's invested 2 years of time into the relationship, if you've been together, perhaps, and I didn't dig into too much detail. I was assuming that at this point they had lived together for some time, or whatever the case may be. But she was like, I just love him so much. Why won't he ask me? How can I get him to ask me? And we had a discussion about sometimes we need to be in a good place in order to feel like it's okay or it's safe for us to jump off of that emotional cliff and invest into what could be a potential life partner, right? It's not an easy decision, I guess is what it boils down to. And I don't know if that was the answer she wanted to hear. So I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I have a little exercise I want you to do. And the exercise went something like this. I said, I want you to go home tonight, and I want you to cook his favorite meal. I want you to treat him like a king. Treat him with love, respect, loyalty, whatever you have to do to make it clearly evident that you're invested and that you're doing all you can, right? And I don't want you to do anything that's so outside of the norm that this person's going to say, why are they acting this way? But I do want you to remember all the things that you love about him and amplify those, right? I said, then, when the time is right, I want you to take the conversation in a completely different direction. I want you to talk about what are the things that you see about me that make you the most happy or excited that we're in this journey together. What are the things that you see about me that make you so happy to wake up the next day and know that I'm a part of your life? And make it a fun question. Turn it into a game if you have to. Do whatever you have to do, and make it to where it's a tender moment, right? To where you have this opportunity. I said, and one of two things are going to happen. I said, at this point, you're either going to feel a direct emotional attachment and you're going to feel like, yeah, this feels good, this feels right, and things are going in the right direction. And you'll know that the investment is there, or you'll get answers that are what I call early relationship answers. And it may reveal to you that this person either isn't in a place or it isn't the right time for them to make that kind of decision, and they're not planning to invest heavily in the future. And she says, okay. She says, thanks. And I didn't expect this, but her reaction was that of which she says, I'm going to try this tonight. So when she got home, she tried it. And this was when we were teaching classes in person. And the next day she came in early. And you could see that she was visibly happy, like the weight of the world had been lifted off of her shoulders. And I was like, hey, how's it going? She says, she said, I want to say thank you. She said, I came in early to make sure I told you thank you. And I said, why? She goes, well, she says, I'm no longer in a relationship with this guy. And I was just like, what? What happened? And she says, yeah. She says, after talking to him, she said, it became clearly evident that he wasn't as invested in the relationship as I was. And my hopes that he would have this attachment to me long term were thwarted. It was never going to be. And his definition of what he wanted out of a relationship was different than hers. And at first I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry. She goes, oh, no. She says, the weight of the world's been lifted off of my shoulders. She says, I feel so much better about who I am. She says, I feel peace in the decision that we made to be incredible friends and to continue to help and support each other and love each other. She says, but now I know where the relationship stands. She says, I can move on and he can move on. And it was a comfortable thing. And I thought to myself, how many times in our personal relationships, in our family relationships, in our professional relationships, are we not playing on a level playing field? How many times are we overinvesting, or our partner overinvesting, or someone we're close to overinvesting or underinvesting? And we feel like there's something missing. There's a component missing to the relationship. And the only way you can ever discover if that component that's missing will ever happen is by taking the time to examine what components are there and what components are missing. And it's a hard thing to do, because the truth is, more times than not, or I shouldn't say more times than that, but many times you're going to discover loss as part of the process of trying to figure this out. But there are some times where you discover the right thing, and the ball cracks, and it gives people a chance to explore and understand where you are. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, my question for you and my challenge for you is, whether it's in your personal relationships, your professional relationships, your relationships with your family, where do you stand? Now, in a previous podcast, I asked people if they dedicated 100% to everything that they did. And this was probably one of the most controversial podcast topics I've ever done. I got people who answered, if you do 100% to everything, 100% to your family, 100% to work, you're going to wind up doing 300% of your time. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. What I meant is, what level of investment do you have in the things that you do? Knowing that you can only have 100% of yourself, what tier of investment are you at? Are you fully invested? Are you only partially invested? Where do you stand in a relationship, and how do you relate? And what I discovered was so interesting, that there was some sense of frustration with certain individuals, because they said, even if I try my very hardest, what am I rewarded with? And there were other individuals who said, I do give everything I can, so that, I can expect, nothing in return, and let karma, do its thing. And what I appreciated the most was, there was another young lady who replied. And what was interesting is, this is a different young lady that I taught in a different class, but when she replied, she said, I don't know that I necessarily understood what love meant to me, or what relationships meant to me, until I found myself centered, until I found myself in the right place. So it took a journey of self-discovery for her to better understand who she was, in order to really dig into how she felt about someone else. And I've said 100 times, 1,000 times, when you lose yourself in the service of others, that's when you discover who you really are. So the trick that I have here is that if you want to find out, and I'm going to pop this out from the very beginning to take it full circle. How do I get him to ask me, right? And let's expand on that question. Instead of just how do I get him to ask me to marry me, maybe it's how do I get him to ask me how I feel about things? How do I get her to ask me, what my opinion is on a topic? Or how do I get a word in edgewise? Or how do I get my kids to understand how much I love them? And that I'm not just trying to tell them no to stop them from doing things, but I'm doing it out of love so that I can protect them and so that I can shield them from some of the bad things that are happening in the world. How do I better understand relationships with my coworkers, with my peers? And I think that no matter what the question is, the answer is always going to be centered on who you are as a person and how well you understand yourself and how you engage and encounter other people. So I guess my challenge for this weekend is, as we go through the weekend, if you reevaluate yourself a little bit, do an introspective, not a retrospective where you're looking at everything outside, but an introspect where you're looking at everything inside, and ask yourself, do I have a firm foundation, something that I believe in? Do I have a story to tell? Do I have something that drives me, that motivates me to be a better person? And then what is my short-term or long-term goal? What do I have going that's going to help me press forward? Because I promise you, if you focus on those three things, it's going to help you realize opportunities to be of service to others. And through those opportunities, you're going to see clarity in those questions that you're seeking. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that it helped someone out there. I know that it helped me just going through the thought process to figure out where I am and to figure out where I am on my journey and what I can do to help others. I hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope things treat you well. I do want to make sure you tune in on Monday. On Monday, we're going to continue our Agile Expert series. Now, for those of you who didn't know, one of the things that we've been trying to do is we've been trying to get a group of Agile experts from the Agile community to come in and have conversations with us about different topics. So coming up next week on Monday, we are going to have Richard Lawrence with us, and Richard is going to talk to us about, well, I'm going to surprise you. So come on in and join us with Richard Lawrence. And it's going to be an amazing topic. It's going to be an amazing Monday. So we hope to see you there. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, we'll see you soon.